Hey everyone, welcome to Steven Universe Behind the Screen, where we look at the show Steven Universe and see how it was made and why it was made the way it was. I'm your host, Victor Frost. So here's a question. Does music affect how you perceive things? Roll the opener. Over the course of the last few episodes, we talked about how art taps into your experiences with culture, how sound is used to sell realism, and how cinematography conveys the internal states of characters. Today, we're gonna backtrack a bit and drill down deeper into the use of music in media, and using, as always, Steven Universe as the case study. Though before we get into specific examples, it's worth taking some time to explain why we're talking about music again when we literally did an entire episode on sound design. I mean, a bunch of examples described what music did in any particular scene, so why go back? Well, instead of the what, this time we're going to get into the how and the why, and in every possible way that is leaps and bounds more important in understanding the role music plays in the media we consume, and how we interpret it. So, let's start with the basics. There is no known human culture that doesn't have music. In religions old and new, in cultures and civilizations spanning the globe and the ages, music has always held an important role in rituals, ceremonies, storytelling, and simple enjoyment. Archaeologists have even found flutes made from animal bones that date back more than 50,000 years before even the earliest evidence of language even existing. According to Professor Chalamet of the Harvard University Department of Music, we come into this world with an innate capability for music. With that in mind, it should be no surprise that, unique from other audio in a film's mix, the primary job of music is to make the audience feel. In 1914, before film with sound was invented, or even before radio was widespread, philosopher Albert Baltz wrote of music, saying, quote, "Air vibrations seem to be a most colorless medium. That mere air vibration should form an exciting agency for the whole gamut of human feelings, its marital ardors, its loves and hates, its joyances and sadnesses, is truly an astounding feat." So why does music resonate with us so well? This is where things get a little hairy, because different cultures can have wildly different types of music that are founded on very different structures. American country music is structurally different from Persian folk music, and Indian raga is different from Chinese opera, etc. It's near impossible to generalize on a level that includes everyone. But at the same time, this is kind of the point. The culture we grow up in teaches us what the kinds of musical structure in it mean, and every culture is different. For example, in Western music, we typically associate major chords with happy emotions and minor chords with sad emotions. Even stylistic choices, like whether you use a classical style or hip-hop, can do things like tell your audience about a character. For example, all of Pearl's music is really heavily done with piano, giving it a classically dignified feel, where Amethyst's are done with synthesizers and electronic drums, lending a more modern, less restrained tone. Now, before we can go any further, I need to explain to you about this concept called diegesis. How diegetic is basically how we measure as creators how present something is in the universe of the work. For example, the audio coming off of my tricked out bike over there is entirely diegetic. It has a logical origin in this universe. But this music is non-diegetic. There's no stereo producing it, no logical explanation for its existence here. It doesn't even have the same sort of audio feel as the rest of the audio. It's entirely artificial. That is non-diegetic. And it's a pretty important part of how we as creators can impact the mood of a piece. So let's see if you guys can tell the difference between a diegetic work and a non-diegetic work in these few clips coming up here. Ooh, this is new. I kind of like it. It's cozy. Alright, so in this game, I'll play a clip and I'll give you a few seconds to decide if the music in it is diegetic or not. So remember, if something is diegetic, it has a logical origin in the narrative. Ready? Let's go.
Commencing duel.
So, is that diegetic or non-diegetic? The music in this clip is non-diegetic. It has no logical origin in the scene. Now, for clip number 2.
Let's meet it! Prepare your meats. Shake it. Tenderize. Player 1 wins. You're toast, player 2.
So, was that diegetic or non-diegetic? The music in that clip is non-diegetic. It's coming from the arcade machine, an in-universe sound source. Okay, last one.
Why do you have to look up to her, aside from in a literal sense? Don't you know that a power that big comes with a bigger expense? And can't you see that she's out of control and overzealous? I'm telling you for your own good and not because I'm...
So, was that diegetic or non-diegetic? Sorry, this one was a bit of a trick question. Much like... hang on. There we go. Much like classic Hollywood musicals, Strong in the Real Way is what's called ambidiegetic. It's neither diegetic nor non-diegetic, but somewhere in between. It's really all about context. In this case, it doesn't make sense from a realistic standpoint why Pearl would be singing, and the accompanying music isn't coming from any logical location in the world, so it can't be diegetic. At the same time, we do see her singing, so it can't be non-diegetic either. Thus, it falls somewhere in between. And remember, a diegetic element is anything at least one character can be aware of. For example, a voiceover from a character's thoughts is still diegetic, because it originates inside the character's mind and they are experiencing it. Whew. Jeez, we still have a lot left to cover. So, let me think. You know what? Let's make this a two-parter. After Steven Baum coverage is over and finished and I get a little bit of a weekend of rest, we're going to go over why sound designers need to be careful in selecting music for a scene, how it affects our sense of pacing, and get into the nitty-gritty of some of the specific ways it's used. I'll see you guys next time for part 2. Later!